Everybody say hello to the newly revamped Momentum Vida E+. This bike got quite the overhaul with a new frame design and the switch from a mid-drive to rear hub motor power. That now packs a bit more punch too. Momentum equipped this ride with some great features and a few add-on options. This ride has a lot of commuting potential. Let's find out what it's all about in today's review. Hey everybody, Griffin with Electric Bike Report here. If you're into e-bikes and want the latest reviews and updates, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today we're checking out the refreshed Momentum Vida E+. It's a bike that blends cruiser-style comfort with commuter-level practicality. The latest model makes some big changes compared to how the old one rode too, so let's get to know the new setup. The most important update is, of course, the motor. The old Vida used a mid-drive, but Momentum swapped it out in favor of a rear hub motor with a bit more juice. It's a 500-watt SyncDrive motor that peaks at 750 watts and delivers 60 Newton-meters of torque. Thanks to a well-tuned torque sensor, it still delivers the natural, responsive feel riders expect from this bike, just with a bit more muscle now. That keeps it fun to ride, whether you're cruising or pushing towards its Class 3 top speed of 28 miles per hour. Okay, now let's talk frame design, as this was tweaked as well. The Vida E+ is approachable with a low 16.5-inch standover height with a step-through Alux aluminum frame. The paint job is glossy and comes in 3 colors: our Mountain Air, Caramel Cinnamon, or Abyss Black. The ride has comfort everywhere: swept back handlebars, upright geometry, and a Suntour XCM 34mm suspension fork with 80mm of travel. Another highlight or thing I appreciated is that Momentum spec'd a nicer fork than what we usually see on cruisers in this range. It soaks up damage without readily bottoming out, and small touches like that will add up. Now, braking is another highlight and another example where they went a little bit higher spec. Instead of the usual 2-piston setup, you're getting Tektron's 4-piston hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors. That's a lot of stopping power on a bike like this. Now, the rest of the spec is all good stuff too. The motor is paired with the Energy Pack 700 internal battery and a 3-amp charger, and all of the electronics are fully UL certified. It also has a wide 26 by 2.4-inch CST tire, which adds stability, and the ergonomic grips paired with the Momentum Lux saddle keep long rides relaxed. Drivetrain-wise, it's running a 52-tooth crankset paired with an 8-speed Shimano cassette. The cockpit is tidy, the rapid-fire shifters are on the right, as well as an optional twist grip throttle, and the color display is over on the left. It's a fairly small unit, but it does help you pair with the Ride Control app for more enhanced settings, like bike locking and ride tweaking that we'll detail a little bit later. Momentum gives you plenty of commuter potential with the right add-ons. We were sent a bunch of different ones to try out, like the optional throttle, but also the front and rear racks here are MIK compatible with 33-pound capacity up front and 55 in the back. That system is one of my favorites. It's really easy to swap panniers, baskets, or even child seats without dealing with Velcro straps, clips, or securing things down with a screwdriver. And you can add optional metal fenders, lights, or mirrors, and the Vida quickly transformed from a laid-back cruiser into a full-on daily commuter. Now, loaded up like this, it weighs in at 69 pounds, while the stock version is 62. And one thing to mention, one of the biggest advantages you're getting here isn't on the bike itself. It's in the support. Momentum is a giant brand, which means you've got access to one of the largest dealer networks in the country. Having local service and setup support can be a real benefit, especially for new e-bike owners. So finally, the base package Vida E+ retails for an MSRP of $2,480. And you can check out the pricing link down below for full details on all the add-ons. So stick around, because up next we'll put it through our performance tests, speed, range, hills, and braking to see how it really stacks up. All right, here's the Class 2 speed test for the Vida E+, going around right now. No motor power, about 9 miles per hour, just a little bit above. Let's go ahead and click on the eco mode though. Pretty instantaneous response there, as long as you've got some amount of push you're able to put into the drivetrain. Good acceleration though, little tiny bit of hum to the motor, but on the quieter end of the radar noise spectrum, I'd say. This one's propelling me up nicely, 14.5-ish mile per hour range. Let's go ahead and move now into second mode, which is called active. And sure enough, a little bit more surge on this one. However, it still ramps things up nicely. Doesn't dart ahead or anything, just kind of propels you along nicely. Up to about 17.7 miles per hour here. Let's finally move over into power mode. End up maxing out the gearing here. This one isn't crazy pronounced above the second mode, but a little bit more speed to it you can detect. We get up right to that 20 mile per hour limit, getting about 19.8 miles per hour in here. But overall, good, smooth, fluid, natural engagement for the most part, I'd say. But let's see how things run on Class 3. All right, jumping straight in on our Class 3 speed test this time. So eco mode going about 13.5 miles per hour. Still moves through the gearing here up into fifth gear. Again, it's got a really good sense of power and engagement from that hub motor. Able to go a little bit faster this time, up to about 15.8 miles per hour. Move into the middle active mode. Feels a little bit faster here again. Start climbing up to 17, 18 miles per hour, move up into seventh gear. Trying to keep a similar cadence to before. I'm not having to push too much harder, just kind of increasing the cadence a little bit, but as you can see it's sailing along now at 21.6 miles per hour. We'll finish things off here in power mode. Move into that eighth and final gear. Yeah, it's doing a pretty good job. Gaining speed, ramping things up. It's feeling powerful and easy. I'm still able to pedal along with it too, so good gearing range. We get up to about 26 miles per hour. I'm still pedaling at a fairly normal cadence for me. Topping off about 26.5, but I'll go ahead and increase my cadence a little bit. Then sure enough, it's able to kind of push us up to that 27.9 upward limit of the Class 3 settings there. So yeah, overall, pretty good engagement. I like the spacing on it. I like that you can pedal along too, but let's break everything down in the studio after a quick throttle test. You're gonna run the throttle test, need to be pedaling just a little bit though to get things started, but on your mark, get set, go. All right, after a couple miles per hour in, then you're able to hit that throttle, get things moving. Climbing pretty steadily here. 10.5, 19, 20, there we go. Well, 19.8 anyway, that seems to be kind of where it wants to top off. All right, let's start with the Class 2 results. So first up, with no motor power, I was cruising at about 9.5 miles per hour. Eco mode bumped that up to 14.4, active mode climbed to 17.7, and in power mode, we topped out at 19.8 miles per hour, just under that 20 mile per hour cap. And then when switched to Class 3, the bike showed some lively performance. Eco mode went to 15.8, active climbed to 21.6, and power stretched all the way to 27.9 miles per hour. And I'd say with normal effort, I could comfortably hit about 25 miles per hour on a typical cadence. And if I really dug in, hitting 28 felt doable and the bike would hold the speed pretty well. The wide 8-speed gearing helped keep the cadence natural, avoiding that ghost pedaling feeling that can ruin the ride at higher speeds. So this was my second time on a SyncDrive hub motor, and once again, I came away really impressed. Each assist level feels distinct, responsive, and natural thanks to that torque sensor. You can coast gently or push hard, and the motor meets you step for step. Now on the natural feeling scale, this feels a little bit better than most other hub motors in my opinion. The throttle also deserves mention. It engages after just 0.6 miles per hour, what's called a throttle after pedal system. Now usually I'm not a big fan of tap designs, but this one kicks in fast enough to feel practical at intersections without risking accidental activation too. All right, next up, let's talk range. Momentum lists the Vida E Plus at 40 to 55 miles of expected range from the 700 watt-hour battery. Now that's a pretty healthy pairing with a 500 watt hub motor, so we put it to the test on our local Class 2 bike path loop. In power mode, riding it like most people would on a daily commute, we logged 34.2 miles before the battery tapped out. And then after a full recharge, we switched to eco mode and stretched it all the way to 58.5 miles. So on the low end, it was a little under the claimed range, and on the high end, it actually exceeded it. Either way, the results lined up really well with both Momentum's claims and our category averages. So looking at the efficiency of our database, the Vida E Plus used 11.9 watt-hours per mile in eco, which is right in line with what we expect from commuter and cruiser bikes. In power mode, it came in at 20.5 watt-hours per mile, which is actually a little more efficient than the 21.5 watt-hours a mile average that we typically see. Now that's impressive considering the stronger acceleration that the motor can deliver. The battery itself is removable for easier charging, and Momentum includes that 3-amp fast charger that gets you back up to about 80% in 4.5 hours, or a full charge in just over 6. And since it's UL certified, you've also got peace of mind when it comes to safety. The bottom line here, the Vida E Plus gives you plenty of mileage for daily use, whether you're going long and steady or fast and fun. All right, let's see how the Vida E Plus handles the steep stuff. Our hill test takes place on the Devil's Backbone, a half-mile climb with an average 8% grade and 217 feet of elevation gain. It's a tough course, and it gives us a clear picture of how an e-bike motor holds up under pressure. We run this test 2 ways, once using only throttle if it's got it, and once again while pedaling in the highest assist level. Let's go to our dedicated tester, Justin, to see how it did.
We are out at the Devil's Backbone testing the Momentum Vida E Plus. We are in power mode, so the top most powerful mode that they have, basically max assist, and we're doing the throttle test. So hitting this first hill, we got up to about 18-19 miles per hour. Right now we're at 14.2, 13.3. We're gonna bottom out right at 12.6 miles per hour. Let's see what we get up to before this next steep section. We're back up to 16.2. And yeah, so right about 16.2. As we make this turn, we're at 13.7, 12.9, 12.4, 12.1, and we're gonna bottom right at 11.8 miles per hour. Slight tap on the brakes to make this turn, and see where we get to before we get to this lamppost. Right now we're at 11.7, and we're gonna cross right at 12.3 miles per hour. So as you get a view of the sunrise here, in terms of power on the throttle, feels pretty decent. The motor noise is, I'd say, a little bit better than average. It's pretty quiet. The frequency's lower, so I really don't hear it that much. I'm sure I'll let you listen to it here for a second so you can kind of get a sense of it for yourself. Yeah, so right up to about 14.2 miles per hour. You do hear it, but it's definitely not that bad. So, you know, happy to see that it made it up this hill. We will go check the tape and see what it does as we finish right at 12.2 miles per hour. Okay, we're back out on the Momentum Vida E Plus. Now we're doing the pedal test in max power, and got right up to about 19.3 miles before that section there. I'm in 6th gear. I'm gonna downshift down to 5th. Feels like a little better cadence. Going about 14.9 miles per hour. I'm gonna top out right about 14.6, or bottom out at 14.6 there. I'm gonna stay in 5th gear. So I climb here. That's a 17.4 miles per hour before the turn. I'm gonna downshift one more to 4th. Looks like we're gonna kind of bottom out right at 13.6 miles per hour. Tap the brakes, downshift one more time. And let's see where we get to for this lamppost. 11.5 miles per hour. Now, get past here. I'm just on your left. Thank you. Okay, did not have to slow down there, so that was nice. So I'm in third gear, going about 11.5 miles per hour. Motor's very quiet, quieter than it was on throttle. Let me let you listen to it. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna hear much there. The assist feels very natural, very smooth, and feels, I'm getting a decent amount of power from it, 12 miles per hour right now. But I am having to work a little bit more than some of the other rear hubs that just push you up. But it feels nice, very smooth. It's not gonna be a barn burner, but it does climb the hills really well and naturally.
On throttle only, the Vida E Plus reached the top in 2 minutes and 17 seconds, averaging 13.2 miles per hour. Now switching over to turbo mode with pedaling, the climb took 2 minutes and 19 seconds with an average speed of 13 miles per hour. Now you might be wondering why the pedal run was actually a little slower. That's not actually unusual. Because the Vida E Plus uses a torque sensor, the motor output closely mirrors your effort. Similar or slightly slower pedal times happen as a result. Now compared to our commuter and cruiser averages of 211 on throttle and 212 when pedaling, the Vida E Plus was just a few seconds behind. And that puts it right in line with what we'd expect from a 500 watt hub motor producing 60 Newton meters of torque. A couple of observations stood out during the climb. First, noise levels were lower than most hub motors we've tested, both in volume and pitch, and it was even quieter when pedaling. And second, the effort required was modest but noticeable. The torque sensor does ask you to contribute, which makes it easy to sneak in a bit of cardio, but it's not overwhelming either. You don't have to be an athlete to climb even intimidating hills like Backbone. So bottom line, the Vida E Plus climbs smoothly and predictably. It's more than capable of handling steep grades when needed, while making moderate hills feel like little more than a warm-up. For all of our brake tests, I take the bike up to 20 miles per hour, then bring it to a full controlled stop. We run this 3 times and average out the distance. The Vida E Plus comes equipped with 4-piston hydraulic disc brakes and 180mm rotors front and rear. That's already a step above what we usually see on cruisers or commuters, which often just come with 2-piston setups. And the result speaks for itself here. The Vida E Plus stopped at an average of 19 feet 7 inches. To put that in context, our current all-bike average is 21 feet 11 inches, and the cruiser commuter average is 22 feet 4 inches. So the Vida didn't just meet expectations, it beat them by a comfortable margin. Now out on the road, braking felt strong and predictable. A light squeeze was enough to get plenty of stopping power with just one finger, and I never experienced tire slipping or instability. If I had one wish list item, it'd be integrated taillights or brake lights to boost safety even further. But performance-wise, Momentum nailed it. The Vida E Plus delivers excellent braking confidence. So I'd say that overall, Momentum's really crafted a commuter with broad appeal because it is very relaxed, very approachable. It's got a little bit of cruiser DNA built into it, and it makes for a pretty nice and pleasant ride that's still got some higher end capabilities. You can commute with good purpose, you can haul a decent amount of gear, and it's got pretty good polish overall, I'd say, with a couple of areas that you might want to make some tweaks yourself, or Momentum could look to tweak down the line. But let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty of all of the details, starting of course with frame and fit. So on this bike you do get 2 different frame options. I always love to see multiple choices there. I get a smaller or large. I'm riding around on the large. Now between the 2 sizes you can fit riders from 5'1" up to 6'3". Should be doable as far as I can tell. 16.5-inch step over height, pretty low to the ground, and then here on this large frame, as someone 6'1" and 230 pounds, feel pretty at home in the cockpit. I've got all the leg extension I want with some room to spare on the seat post height adjustment, and then like overall, like I said, feel fairly comfortable. The reach is maybe a tad lower than I personally prefer, but most of my height is in my torso, so my shoulders are starting from a more elevated position than most. But barring that though, overall pretty satisfied with how it feels in terms of reach and just the confidence and comfort of the stability you get on the wheelbase length. The rest of the geometry feels pretty well thought out. Now you do get a 710mm bar right here, a little bit of that back sweep to it, so it does keep things a little bit more comfortable. You do have a fixed stem, so no option of tilting that up or down, but again, I think it's going to be a good fit for most people.
In terms of the other comfort things that you get on this, I actually like some of the little details that Momentum has thrown in. You know, grips are not something that's going to earn a bike an A automatically, but I do like these grips. A little bit of a headwind here. I do like these grips, just makes it a little bit more comfortable. You have this extra bit of padding here on the bottom side, a little bit of textured grip on the back too, just the type of thing I can ride for hours and feel like comfortable with. The suspension fork, of course, the Centaur XCM 34, 80 mil travel. It feels actually pretty good. I've gotten this one dialed into a nice spot where, you know, it's got good support to it. I do like, I've been trying to pay more and more attention lately just how much sag goes into a fork as soon as I hop on them. On this one, it is minimal for sure, barely moves down, and so it feels a little bit more firm as I go over some of those bumps, which I always prefer. I never like the feeling of bottoming out and testing the durability of the fork or anything like that, so it is a pretty good fork match for this bike. You get the 26 by 2.4 inch CST tires, and it's one of those things where there's not a lot of notes to give. It's just got fairly good traction, road tread, type of thing that, you know, moves pretty well across pavement, not overly loud or anything like that. Just pretty pleasant ride, overall pretty reliable. Haven't had any issues with flats, so good things there. Going back a little bit to the motor conversation. So, like I said, I do like the overall engagement of this. It's the type of bike that it's really easy to just kind of like cruise around and enjoy the ride. You'll be going a little bit, you know, like faster, but it is the type of thing where, you know, even if you put it in like the highest power level, you're not going to accidentally get to 28 miles per hour. Your speed will definitely keep creeping up and up and up, but I don't think you really enter those highest levels of speed unless you kind of push and really work for it. It's actually a pretty good programming in my opinion. It's got the ability to hit those top end speeds, but you're going to be able to pedal along to it as well. So if you are someone like me who kind of prefers, you know, to feel involved in the pedaling process all the way to 28 miles per hour, you've got a drivetrain with enough range and a motor that syncs up pretty well to your effort, making it a fairly natural hub experience. You get power, you get a little bit of naturalness to it, really good blend overall. Now, like I said, I think this is a ride that definitely has good appeal for all sorts of different riders. I think it's going to be comfortable for a lot of people. There is a little bit of things like on the execution that could be just a little bit better. Like I've noticed if I keep things in 7th or 8th gear here, there is a little bit of flap to the chain. It is kind of hitting on that chainstay. So, you know, a little protection there might be a nice addition, but beyond that, there's a couple other accessories that Momentum has for this bike that can definitely help you get the most out of the experience, or if you have some cargo you need to haul, things like that. So let's break down all of the extras we were sent for testing back in the studio.
Momentum has set it up so that with the right accessories, this can easily double as a highly capable commuter. The rack system is a standout. Both front and rear racks are MIK compatible, which means no fiddling with a ton of Velcro straps or bolting down items. You just click bags or baskets on and off in seconds, and it's secure with a key. I've tested it with panniers and even a child seat, and it works seamlessly. It's my preferred rack system. Momentum's own accessories are also pretty sharp. These side mount panniers clip right into place, and this G2 bag gives you 20 liters of storage with dividers and weather resistant material. We've actually had a lot of rain this week, and the contents inside stayed nice and dry. Now, I do wish a couple of things came standard, specifically the throttle and the headlight. Most other cruisers in this price tier include those, so I think it would pad the value a little more if it came included. But part of the reason of the bike's price, in addition to the better than most hub motor experience and some of the higher spec features, is the Vita's backing. Again, Momentum is of course a Giant Bicycles brand, so they're backed by one of the largest dealer networks in the country, which means help and service are never too far away. And the customer service aspect is something people in our audience are always mentioning, so it's nice to know that comes baked in.
All right, so really quickly, I wanted to walk you through the display and the app. We'll kind of start things out with the display. So the unit itself, fairly small. It is color coordinated though, so you can get some easier to understand like different power levels, yellow, red, green, things like that as you're toggling between those. So right now I've got you can toggle between your odometer, your top speed, your range, and of course over here in the top right is where you have your percentage of battery life remaining. So overall pretty basic unit, but works just fine. Now over here we have the Giant Ride Control app. So this one shows we're connected to the Vida E Plus, shows you your connected devices down here. Now your bottom one, this is the main home screen layout. Over here you can do a little bit of trip planning, set yourself up where you want to be heading to. The ride itself will just kind of help you record and log that. And then you have some settings as well where you can come in and actually make it so you are synced to your Strava account if you like to track things that way. Now when we jump into, let's see, whoops, wrong one, the e-bike setup here. Now this one is where you can come in and toggle your speed limit settings, choose between 28 or 20 miles per hour, whatever is legal where you are riding. There's also a system check function. This is one of the reasons it's good to download the app, not only to just run diagnostics, but if you need to, you can also, potentially get firmware updates and things like that over time. But here in the diagnostics, it'll check the display, the motor, and the battery pack, which is handy to have. Now, if you jump over here into bike details, it'll give you a little bit of a breakdown, your model year, even things like your amount of charge cycles. Some advanced data, always a good thing to have. Now, with ours, this is a media bike, so I don't actually have the password function, but this is also where you'd come to set up the password so the bike recognizes you as you approach with your phone and app. So, pretty handy. It's, like I said, fairly basic and straightforward, but always good to have, if for nothing else, for some firmware updates and security.
All right, before we wrap this up, let's just get to some straightforward pros and cons to give you the big picture on the Vida E+. Starting with the positives, the bike rides with a lot more muscle than you'd expect from a cruiser. The 500 watt hub motor feels strong, quick, and thanks to a well-programmed torque sensor, surprisingly natural. It's a smooth balance of power and control that makes every ride enjoyable. The design is versatile too. It's comfortable like a cruiser, but with the right accessories, it's fully capable as a commuter. The 4-piston hydraulic brakes deserve a shout out. Those are rare on bikes in this class, and our testing showed excellent stopping distances. And styling is sharp with internal cable routing and 3 attractive paint finishes, and comfort is dialed in with 2 frame sizes, ergonomic grips, and a higher quality fork than we often see at this price point. Add in that optional MIK rack system, some of the panniers and accessories, and you can really scale this bike up to fit your lifestyle. Now for the wish list. In higher gears, the chain can flop and tap that chainstay, so a guard would be a smart addition. And at this price, I'd love to see a throttle and at least a headlight included standard. Overall though, the Vida E+ checks a lot of boxes and makes a strong case as both a cruiser and a commuter. So what's the verdict on the Momentum Vida E+? It rides well and is a true hybrid experience. It blends the relaxed comfort of a cruiser with the pace and practicality of a commuter. Now, after my second round with the SyncDrive hub motor, my first impression still holds. Engagement is crisp, the power feels strong, and the ride stays smooth and natural thanks to that torque sensor. It's a motor that performs well without drawing too much attention to itself. And by the numbers, testing was strong overall and standout braking performance. By the most subjective vibe metric, it kind of passes that too. The Vida E+ is comfortable enough for long rides and fun enough to make you actually want to go take them. If you're considering the Vida E+, you can check out availability through your local retailers via the link in the description. That'll do it for this review. Let me know your thoughts on the Vida E+ down in the comments. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report, and I'll see you on the next ride.